What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty. Today, Tyler and I are jumping into a Superflex startup mock draft. I know, it's redraft season officially, but a lot of dynasty leagues do start in August because people get bitten by that draft bug and they're like, well, I really like this team. I want to keep it for next year. So let's just start a dynasty league, right? So hopefully, if anyone has a dynasty startup coming pretty darn soon, we can help out with that. But before we jump into the video, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I actually have another startup coming up, so I'll get some good practice in, and we'll see what we can do with it. We'll start take two on a fresh note, and I just need you to send me the link to the draft as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those watching at home, we started a video. It was going great. I had a phenomenal team. Lamar Jackson fell to me at 12. I had A.J. Brown at 13. I had Anthony Richardson at 301. And I realized I forgot to put the Superflex format in there. So that would completely explain why my draft turned out so well and why Tyler got Bryce Young and Tua in the third and the fourth round. I don't think we're going to get that lucky again this time, buddy.
I feel like it's like a common problem for us. I feel like it's an issue that we run into. It's happened more than once now where we got to catch up.
Yeah. You know what, man? We win some, we lose some. I just sent you that link, so feel free to hop in. But so I'm going to be picking from the 12 spot. Tyler's going to be picking from the 7 spot. Let me go ahead, share that screen, and let's get moving, shall we? So start of the draft, we got, Jalen Hurts goes 101. Pat Mahomes goes all the way to 103. Not necessarily something that I would expect to happen, but also there are a lot of people out there that do have Jalen Hurts as their one, that do have Josh Allen as their one. So you'd have to be very lucky to get Pat Mahomes at the 103, but it's honestly not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, you would certainly be, doing backflips about that, but I mean, you're doing backflips if you get the 103 for Jalen Hurts anyways. I think they're all in the same tier, but just in terms of longevity, I can't put anybody above Pat Mahomes. We had this discussion a while ago in private. Just like what is the case for making sure that Pat Mahomes is above like Josh Allen? It's just Pat Mahomes can do it with no weapons. He's doing it with absolute no-name guys, whereas Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, they need those weapons to really hit their ceilings. Here I'm a little bit disappointed. I wanted to start with Chase or Jefferson like I did in the last one, or the last one that really try something new, but didn't work out for me here. You can always go between Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson. I don't think you can go wrong. Just in terms of health concerns, I'm going to fade Lamar on this one. And it's tough between Herbert and T-Law for me, really, because I think T-Law has such a high ceiling. But being that Kellen Moore is coming to L.A. and knowing what he can do with offensive weapons, being that I was a Cowboys fan for the last couple of years and, watching that offense, Sunday in, Sunday out, I'm gonna take Justin Herbert because I think his upside is also incredibly high. I mean, he was drafted as the 103 pretty consistently last year in startups. So I'm gonna take the value for what it's worth, and I'm gonna take Justin Herbert at the 1-7.
Yeah, I like the call there. I think Herbert's the safe one. Either him or Trevor Lawrence. I would take either one of them over Lamar Jackson. Lamar does have the highest ceiling out of those guys, I think, right, because of that rushing upside. But again, he also has the highest injury risk and probably the least amount of longevity between those three. So I do like that. I'm going to try something weird here. I was kind of hoping I could get Lamar or T-Law to fall to me at 112, but obviously that didn't happen. I was thinking maybe going double wide receiver with A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb, but A.J. Brown went. So I'm going to have to pivot here. I know for a fact, though, that I am going to take CeeDee Lamb here. I just cannot justify taking Anthony Richardson or Deshaun Watson or even Bryce Young, who I really like. I cannot justify taking any of those guys over CeeDee Lamb. And I can't justify taking any of those guys over Bijan Robinson either. So not how I expected my Superflex draft to start, but at 12 overall, when Bijan Robinson falls to you and CeeDee Lamb falls to you, we're going to figure out quarterback a little bit later in this draft. We're going to get a little risky with it, but I'm getting the wide receiver 3 or 4 overall with CeeDee Lamb. I'm getting the overall RB1 with Bijan Robinson. I don't love not having a quarterback through the first 2 rounds of my draft, but if I'm not going to have a quarterback, it's going to be for this exact start.
Yeah, this is exactly the way you go when you don't have access to any of the top quarterbacks that aren't rookies. We talked about it before, like not comfortable after seeing what happened to Trey Lance and the startup capital that everybody was giving him at the 1-2 turn. Like if these guys, if they pan out, great. They stay here, they hang here. If they don't, they fall down to the 7th, 8th round. So I love avoiding that, and that's definitely the way to go about it. Like stack up at those positional advantages. I'm here. See, I never go running back this early. You could convince me to go Breece Hall, but I think like his trade value is probably lesser than his startup value, so he's probably easier to acquire in the trade market than in a startup. I'm gonna go Jalen Waddle here. I like Jalen Waddle a lot. I know he's kind of like established himself as sort of a boom bust prospect, but he's elite, and I think over the next couple of years he's going to take over as Tyreek ages out and leaves and things like that. So Jalen Waddle can help me win now and win later. So I think he's a good flexible piece to have.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not surprised at all by you taking Jalen Waddle at 206. I know you're a big fan of his. I mean, as you should be, right? Really big play potential. Top 6, top 7 dynasty wide receiver there. I mean, you really can't beat it at the 206, especially when you get to pair him with Justin Herbert. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this at the start of the video. It's a 3rd-round reversal, which is why I was also kind of fine with really punting on quarterback, because I know that I can get one here at the 301. To my surprise, Bryce Young is there, and he's definitely going to be my pick. I like Chris Olave. I like his upside. Obviously, who doesn't like Saquon Barkley? But, dude, I mean, Bryce Young, I'm such a big fan of his, and while he might not have an amazing 2023, I think even as soon as 2024, he's going to put it all together. He's going to be a really damn good quarterback to have, longevity-wise. I mean, you look at guys like Joe Burrow, you look at Trevor Lawrence, right? They all had kind of iffy rookie years, and then they really put it together in their second year. That's what I would expect out of Bryce Young if he doesn't show up in year one. So CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, Bryce Young, phenomenal start in my opinion, and a very young team that I can really squeeze out a dynasty with.
Yeah, definitely a young team. I feel like I would be scared to go with the combination of Bijan and Bryce Young. Like you definitely got the best value in Bryce. I just think if my team's going to be constructed that way, like it's tough to, rely on Bryce Young to produce top 12, top 8 quarterback numbers, have that kind of high upside right off the bat. I think I would have, if I were you, not to, question your judgment, but I would have gone with this guy, Dak Prescott, because I think he also gives me a combination of like I have him for the next 3 or 4 years, and he's going to produce and help me compete. So I don't think I missed out too much on the quarterbacks. I don't see much difference between him and Deshaun Watson. He goes almost a full round later. And I also, by taking Dak Prescott, I missed out on Devonta Smith and JSN, but I get to take my main man, Drake London, and be pretty thrilled about it.
Yeah, getting Drake London there, I'm not surprised you took him. I know you love him. I don't hope Desmond Ridder gets any better because I'm a Panthers fan, and it's just really sweet watching him struggle in training camp right now. But for God's sake, I do like Drake London. I have him on my main dynasty squad, and I really hope that they can figure something out. I don't want them to get Caleb Williams for extremely selfish reasons, but damn it, Ridder needs to give this guy some catchable balls. But yeah, Drake London, supremely talented. Starting off with him and Waddle in that wide receiver room, I mean, that's pretty damn good right there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved it if it was JSN or Devonta Smith instead, where I felt like they were going to be putting up much bigger numbers this year than Drake London. But it is what it is. I think he's still an elite guy with room to grow, and the situation can only improve from here. So.
Yeah, so I know one guy that I'm taking because I have back-to-back picks here. So I'm going to kind of milk the clock a little bit. I'm 100% going to be taking TJ Hawkinson. First off, I love TJ Hawkinson. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's going to continue to show out with Minnesota. I'm a really big fan, and Tyler, you know this. I'm a really big fan making sure that I have, a top 4, top 5 tight end on my team if the price is right. Pick 48 overall. TJ Hawkinson's ADP is 48 overall. So I think that is a very fair value to pay for him. Not necessarily a tight end premium league. We didn't really discuss that. But either way, I love having an advantage at the tight end position, especially one who is 26 years old. I mean, I got another 5 or 6 years out of TJ Hawkinson before he started falling apart there. So happy to get him there. Now, my second pick here, Daniel Jones is on the short list. If I kind of scroll all the way down here, if I wait until pick 6 here, and I can say this out loud because you have your 2 quarterbacks, I don't think you're a threat of taking one from me. I don't mind punting and waiting for Geno Smith for my QB2. I don't even mind maybe even taking Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson a little bit later. I do like Daniel Jones. They did just sign him to a contract extension. He's going to have a starting job for a while, and he is, believe it or not, a running quarterback. So kind of a little cheat code there, but I'm building my team young. So I think I got to stick with Daniel Jones because just going with Geno or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, as good as they can be in 2023, and I think they all will be good in 2023, Daniel Jones just kind of fits the mold of my team a little bit better. I'm building a young squad. At the age of 26, Daniel Jones is going to join my squad and be the oldest guy on this team right now. So I think I have to do it in order to kind of maintain my my focus here.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's a great thought process. Like Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith, they help you if Bryce Young is able to, catch fire in the next year or two, like right away. Daniel Jones can give you that floor for the next, handful of years. You got a 4-year contract there. I was definitely hoping Quentin Johnson was going to fall to me on a Justin Herbert team. That would have been beautiful, but I guess the guy with Justin Fields didn't see the need. I don't know, whatever. That's annoying. This guy and teammate actually kind of looks like almost like I drafted it. So this might be why I'm annoyed. But I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy here, a guy that we've been kind of clamoring for the last couple weeks. Started to come on to him. He is younger than Christian Watson by a week, as you told me last week. Kind of frustrated that this guy went Quentin Johnston instead of DJ Moore to get his stack. We both could have been happy at the end of the day. But I'm definitely happy with Jerry Jeudy and the upside at the 5'6". Like we talk all the time. I mean, he's a guy who he hasn't really done anything wrong to say that he's not a good receiver. He's just been in a garbage situation for a long time. And if it's going to improve at any time, it's going to be now or never. So this is either going to be the cheapest or the most expensive you're going to get Jerry Jeudy for the next couple of years. But I'm definitely willing to stash him on a roster and find out.
It's really funny how you say that. This is either the cheapest he'll be in the next year or the most expensive he'll be in the next year. And that's such a weird thing to say, but it's so true, man. Because if he doesn't show out in the first 4 or 5 weeks, his stock is plummeting. If he picks up where he left off, his stock is skyrocketing. Like there is almost no in between for Jerry Jeudy. It's kind of like the make it or break it year for him, right? If he burns people in 2023, everyone's going to be off the Jeudy train. But if he finally puts it together, kind of like he did at the end of 2023, everyone's going to love him again. So I like the pick there. That's exactly who I would have taken in your scenario.
Yeah, I'm hoping he can continue on. I mean, we've also put our money where our mouth is and traded for him in a couple of different spots. Actually, in one league that we're in together, we were going to make a 3-way trade where you got him, and I didn't like that I was going to be helping you out there and giving you a good price on him, so I kind of backed out there. Here, I'm gonna take my shot on a running back who's also young that can give me production for a long time. And I think is a value at the 6'7". Javonte Williams sitting right there at the top of the ADP. I think he's a perfect bang for your buck running back at this spot in the draft. I mean, I would definitely take him over George Pickens. Brandon Ayuk would have been on the short list there. I'm sorry that he didn't fall to you. I wish that could have happened for you to make your day, but. I like Javonte. The reports are coming out that he's going to be healthy sooner rather than later. He might possibly even be there for week 1. So I'm liking Javonte in this spot, and especially considering this is all the way where he's fallen to, considering he was being drafted over Breece Hall last year, and being drafted up there with Jonathan Taylor, and now he's had this fall from grace. So I'm going to pick him up where he's fallen at and take my shares there and buy on the low.
Yeah, I like Javonte there. Top 3, top 4 dynasty running back this time a year ago, gets hurt. Now he's kind of an afterthought. But he should rebound pretty well by the end of 2023. I think it's going to take a few weeks for us to really see much from him, but he's going to get there. Make no mistake. I mean, he is a really good running back. I was hoping Brandon Ayuk was going to fall here. I was going to tandem 2 wide receivers together here. I was going to take Brandon Ayuk and Terry McLaurin. So Scary Terry's still there. I'm going to take him. A little bit older. He becomes the oldest guy on my team, but at the age of 27 years old, he's just hitting his prime. Wide receivers are pretty much in their prime from age 27 till about 30 if they're good. And Terry McLaurin is pretty damn good. Plus, I'm a really big believer in Sam Howell. I think he's going to be phenomenal for Terry and for Jahan Dotson this year. So very happy to get Terry as my wide receiver too. Now, I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to. So like I said, I could have gotten Geno here. I kind of expected him to still be there at the 6 or 7 turn. If I didn't take Bryce Young as my QB1 and I can have 100% guaranteed good production from my QB1, I would have punted and taken Geno as my QB2. But again, Bryce Young is kind of risky in 2023, right? But obviously not going to take Geno. I'm not taking my QB3 there. I do like Jahan Dotson, but I'm not taking him and Terry. I believe in Sam Howell, but I don't believe in him enough to take both of his receivers, right? I'm actually going to take Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders, I've said it a million times. Tyler, you've agreed with me a million times. He could be this year's Josh Jacobs. We're teetering between either Miles Sanders or Najee Harris being that guy for the 2023 season. And the fact that I can get Miles Sanders in the 7th round really makes me excited because one of 2 things happens for my team, right? If Miles Sanders pans out how we think he is, if Bryce Young plays well and I'm an immediate, top 3, top 4 team in this league, I just got a really cheap RB2 that has RB1 upside. Or conversely, if my team is not doing as well as I want them to do in 2023, I think Sanders is going to pan out. I can sell him arguably for a lot more than a lot of the guys you'd be able to get here in the 7th round, midway through the season when people's running backs go down, right? So whether it's trade fodder or whether he's helping me out in 2023 has yet to be seen. But one thing's for certain, getting him at 701 is a total steal because I think he's going to be awesome this year.
Yep. Good pick. Took him right from me. Not that he was going to fall to me, but I was hoping at least Rachaad White or Mixon would, because now I'm kind of in a spot where I'm kind of forced to go down the road of like, all right, let's just add points. It's a short list, really. I mean, the only ones I can see really worth taking here are going to be Godwin, Cooper. Like, I even think Aaron Jones is probably a good value here, but I'm not going to take him because the computers aren't going to reach on him. In a way, Jahan Dotson kind of fits the mold, but considering I took Drake London in the 4th, and I'm going to be probably missing some points out of what I could have had there if I had gotten like a DK or something like that. I'm gonna go Chris Godwin, and I'm gonna not be a fan of it, honestly, because I think, like, in my mind, I think Amari should probably be ranked over Godwin in these drafts. I think Amari's he's going to have a better year of production this year with Deshaun Watson than Godwin's going to have with Baker Mayfield. That Tampa Bay offense just scares the living hell out of me. I mean, I do think Godwin's like going to be a wide receiver too, and he's healthy. He's going to be a top 20 guy, but like Amari does have that top 12 upside in Cleveland over there. So I think I might have just missed out on that. But I'm just going to put a staple in my tight end room and forget about it. We can no longer talk about it, and you don't have to hear me rant anymore. I'll take Pat Freiermuth, and now I've just got a couple more spots to fill out here to make a dominant roster.
Yeah, I was 1,000% sure you would be taking Freiermuth there. I've never seen him be top 3 on the ADP and you not take him. You love that guy, and that's a perfectly fine pick there. So a part of me is tempted, right, to take Aaron Rodgers here, because if Bryce Young is kind of slow to start off in 2023, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be slow with it at all. I think he's going to have a good year with the Jets. And pairing him with Daniel Jones, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, yada, 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 that's really damn good for my team. But I'm going to stick to my gut because I do think Bryce Young could surprise people this year, and I'm just going to ride with it. Maybe if someone falls to me in the 10th or 11th round, maybe we'll consider taking a QB3 there, but I'm not in the business of doing that just yet. I still need another receiver. I need a couple flex options. So just kind of looking at the board here, I'm not going to take a quarterback. I already invested pretty early draft capital at a tight end, so I'm not going to take Darren Waller. Alexander Mattison does absolutely nothing for me, like negative feelings towards him whatsoever. Yeah, man, there's really not a lot of great names out here on the board. If I'm being entirely honest with you, this is kind of a dead zone. The 8-9 turn, not a fan in the slightest bit. So without much convention, I'm going to take James Cook with my first pick, mostly because I just need the clock to reset, so I have more time to think. But also, I mean, he's young. I was a really big fan of James Cook's this time last year, and we all knew it was going to be a 2-year process for him, right? Devin Singletary still owned the majority of the touches last year, but they are really impressed with James Cook's ability to go out there and catch passes. And I know it's not really something that we've seen a lot of in Buffalo, dumping the ball off to running backs, but James Cook is good. And I think he could change their mind on that. I wouldn't say he has RB1 upside. He definitely doesn't, but he could be like a top 17 or top 18 guy in PPR formats. And in an offense that's going to score a shit ton of points, I'll put some stock into James Cook. I don't mind taking him at the 8-12 here.
Yeah, I definitely like James Cook. Zach Moss actually just broke his arm in practice today. Not today when the video comes out, but today when we're recording this. So, yeah, the backfield is his.
Well, Zach Moss is in Indianapolis now, but
oh my dude, I'm thinking it's like 2020. You just
it's
like a shock on my face.
That's okay, buddy. That's okay. We've all it's Monday. We're recording this on a Monday. Don't even
Zach Moss doesn't matter anyways. Last time we talked about him was in the 20th round of a startup mock we did last year, and I was like, yeah, why not? And he got like 6 points that year, and I was like, I told you so.
Exactly. But just looking at this board, man, no matter who I take here is going to be a reach. I really don't want to reach too far. I like Kendre Miller, but I don't need 4 running backs on my roster through 9. I'm just going to take guaranteed points. Does not fit the mold of my team, but it is going to help me in 2023, and I could sell closer to the trade deadline. Keenan Allen, man, you might be a little upset with me for taking that. I don't know if you were planning on taking him to pair with Justin Herbert, but Keenan Allen is still a stud. I don't care if he's 32 years old or not. I mean, he's still pretty damn good at football. So taking a guy who has, top 12, top 15 wide receiver overall upside at 901, I don't care how old he is. I'll take that just about every time.
Yeah, so I was sort of kicking myself for taking Godwin over Aaron Jones in the 7th because I was looking at it like, man, Keenan Allen could have just fallen to me here. But you ruined that dream, and instead I am going to be okay with it because I'm going to take Alvin Kamara here. As of right now, at the time of this recording, he still hasn't had his meeting with Roger Goodell yet. So we'll see how that goes. But the fact that even if I can get 8 weeks of his production in the 9th round, and even if he retires right after that, I think I'm getting good value, and I like him as my RB2, especially when I'm going to be able to pair him off with this guy who I know you love. And it's kind of been growing on me a little bit recently as good news has been coming out. Antonio Gibson, although good news has been coming out about Brian Robinson as well. So I think that backfield is kind of like a coin flip. I do think Antonio Gibson's the better athlete and the better running back. But yeah, I think I'm definitely comfortable with his running back room of Javonte, Kamara, and Gibson after starting off with like Waddle, London, Judy, and Godwin. I definitely like where I'm at here.
Yeah, I think you pivoted to some pretty decent running backs, all things considered. I mean, you focused on your wide receivers and your quarterbacks, and you still came away with, Kamara's been obviously Kamara is past his best days, but Kamara was once a top 5 running back. Gibson was once a top 12 running back, and Javonte was once perceived as a top 5 running back. Put that all together, you got some value in there somewhere. At 10-12, I was thinking of taking Antonio Gibson. I was thinking of taking Ingram, Mingo, Elijah Moore. They all got taken. So I'm going to do 2 things here. The first one is I'm going to take Gabe Davis. I'm going to take Gabe Davis because at the 10-11 turn, that's fantastic. I mean, we were taking Gabe, not we specifically, just everyone in general. Gabe Davis was going in the 5th round of startups this time last year, and he disappointed, even though he kind of did what he did in the seasons prior, right? Like he did exactly what we probably should have expected him to do. And I think the market has overcorrected on him to the point where he is now a value. Like, I think Gabe Davis, if he was going in like the 8th or the 9th round, I would believe you if you told me that. So the fact that I can get him here at the 10-11 turn, I'm pretty excited about that. He's still, I mean, dude, he has home run hitting, upside there, right? We've seen him go off for 2-3 touchdowns in a single game, over 100+ yards many times. So I like Davis, and if he can finally put it together and put together some consistency, I think that's a big steal there. And then with my second pick, I wasn't planning on taking a QB3 this early, but with how the board's shaken out, QB3s are basically all the rage for me right now. Like I could scroll down, Chiggy's there. I'm not going to take Chiggy. Roshan Johnson, I like him, but I can't like the board down here. I can't justify really taking any of these guys over a quarterback at the very least, just for value's sake. So I'm going to look at this board and I'm stuck between two guys. It's Brock Purdy and Sam Howell. Because I love Sam Howell so much, I'm going to take him. I genuinely think he's going to be really good in Washington, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and he's got a great supporting cast there. Brock Purdy, same situation, right? He was a late-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, as we all know, but he's got a great supporting cast. He's got Debo. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got Brandon Ayuk. He has George Kittle. I mean, I think either one of these guys as your QB3 is honestly a dream scenario.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. That's the perfect amount of value you want to spend on your QB3. You don't want to be overloaded and like have, Kirk Cousins as your QB3. Like it's great to be able to fill him in for that week, but it really only buys you like 15 points throughout the season, versus like if you threw a running back in that super flex spot, if you don't have a third quarterback. So I'm really more keen to have this kind of price of a QB3. I mean, unless you're going to have like 3 of the studs and just lock somebody else out. If you have, Mahomes, Herbert, and then Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson or something like that, then like, yeah, you can hold it and like hoard that asset from the rest of the league, and that'll be an advantage for you. But other than that, like I don't want to hold those mid-tier guys that like somebody else could use in their starting lineup, and I could help my lineup elsewhere, if that makes sense. So if I was in your situation, yeah, it would have been Sam Howell or Brock Purdy for me. But for me, it's going to be Derek Carr. We unfortunately think alike that we were thinking in terms of quarterback here, but my team is in a bit of a different spot than yours, I think, being that I have those established quarterbacks who are going to be scoring points. So I'll take Derek Carr to plug in there on those bye weeks. And then to polish it off, I'm going to take a guy who a lot of people are down on for very obvious reasons, but possibly like down too far. Like when we see what's going on with the running back market, and like Breece Hall has Dalvin Cook possibly coming in. He hasn't signed yet at the time of this video. But like Kenny Walker just had Charbonnet come in. Like these guys are all going to have competition. I think there could be a possibility that like Tyler Algier plays a little bit more of a role than people are expecting. I'm not saying that he's going to be like a damaging aspect to Bijan's value, but I do think he's going to get touches. I mean, he had 1,000 yards last year, and when you take a running back in the first round, you have like all the incentive in the world to give touches to a backup that you didn't invest a lot in. That's what the incentive is. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Algier get some sort of workload this year and take a little bit of the beating for Bijan Robinson in less intense scenarios. So I'm going to take him here, and he could be in a deeper league, he could be a guy that you could throw into your lineup and see 8 points in a week, 8 to 10 points, But if Bijan does get hurt, then he is a premier asset, and he is a premier handcuff to own for those couple of weeks. So I'll take Algier here because I do need the running back help, and I think he's still got potential to see volume.
I mean, I was going to take him at 12-12 if you didn't take him there, especially since I had Bijan Robinson. I think if you can get Tyler Algier in the 12th or 13th round and you are the person with Bijan Robinson, I think you have to do it. He is probably the best handcuff in all of football right now. I mean, how many backup running backs are coming off a 1,000-yard rushing season? Like it literally might just be Tyler Algier. I don't know if that's fact, but it sounds like that's probably fact, right? So Tyler Algier, I mean, if something happens to Bijan, he's going to be awesome. And if not, like you said, I think he will continue to have a role. Now I'm moving on here. All of the quarterbacks are still at the top of the ADP. I'm not going to take that. I took Keenan Allen in the 9th round. I'm going to take another old guy with great upside, Michael Thomas. I don't necessarily know if he rebounds this year or ever. If he doesn't rebound this year, it will be never, right? Because he's getting older. He's in his 30s. But I mean, dude, you just go back a few years. Michael Thomas was the best wide receiver that you could possibly have in fantasy football. Like, injuries be damned, that doesn't just disappear. And Derek Carr is good. Derek Carr will be able to prove that Michael Thomas is still relevant for both football and fantasy football. And in the 12th round, I mean, especially the 12-13 turn, there's really no risk associated with this pick. It's just I'm going for it, and if it works, it works. If not, who cares? He's my bench receiver. You know what I mean? So we'll kind of see what happens there. But I got a minute left on the clock. I really want to take another running back, but there's just like no one on here that I can justify taking. Like Samaje Perine could be pretty good if Javonte doesn't start off 2023 super well, but again, he's still going to be in a timeshare. Elijah Mitchell, obviously behind Christian McCaffrey. Damian Harris, I usually would take, but I already have James Cook. I don't need to double dip into that Buffalo backfield, so just not really something I'm interested in. And as we keep going on, I mean, like, yeah, Devin Singletary's still around. Deontay Foreman's there, but just doesn't really do anything for me. So I'm going to take the guy on this list that I believe in the most as a prospect. Second-year tight end, Trey McBride. Why did I hit the plus sign, didn't I? There we go. Second-year tight end, Trey McBride. Tested really well. Back in college, dude, he had an 1,100-yard season. And when Zach Ertz went down for Arizona last year, Trey McBride stepped in and was actually pretty damn good over the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Plus, you put into the fact that Zach Ertz is starting out the year likely on the injury reserve list, and Kyler Murray's not going to be there, so there's going to be a quarterback making some very desperate dump-off throws to tight end. I think Trey McBride could emerge as, at least a future tight end star in 2023. So I'll take him as my tight end too there.
Yeah, I like Trey McBride. He's one of my late round flyer tight ends that I like to throw in. I kind of have him slightly below like Dulcich, Chiggy, and Trey McBride. Or sorry, slightly below Dulcich, Chiggy, and Cole Kmet. But I think he's pretty much in that same tier. Here I'm, I like you said, there's not much value to go around. Like Jaden Reed could have some value. He could be good. I could be missing out on a lot by passing on him. But given that I just have 4 staple receivers that I'm comfortable having in my lineup every week, and the running back situation is going to be iffy, I was hoping Samaje Perine was going to fall there. He did not. But I think my next choice is going to have to be it's either between Zach Evans or Donta Foreman. I'm going to go with Donta Foreman. I do think he can play a role in Chicago. He could be the goal line back. And Carolina, news is coming out that they do want him back in Carolina. So maybe, at some point this year after he could go back and play a similar role, and I could be looking at some decent running back production. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind taking the shot on him. And now I think I can take a shot on a receiver because I think that Romeo Doubs is probably just as good as Jaden Reed, and I'll just take the shot on him around later. So I'm good with that. Criticize me if you want for the 14-7, but I think you're a Doubs fan as well, and to some capacity, to whatever extent. So.
Yeah, man, how can you not be in the 14th round, right? Romeo Doubs, I mean, he was a training camp superstar last year, and he actually had a pretty solid enough year in 2022 with Green Bay. Obviously, a lot of question marks there with Jordan Love taking over, but still, I mean, it's perfectly fine. I do like the pick there in the 14th round. You can't really go wrong. I am kind of tempted to take a flyer on a 4th quarterback. I don't need one, man, but like the board is just, that's where the value is. And I feel like I could find a trade partner eventually for one of these guys. Like if you're in a 12-team league and everyone only has 2 quarterbacks, the bye weeks roll around. I have Mac Jones as QB4, Desmond Ridder as QB4. I can sell one of them for above market price because quarterbacks are always in demand. I don't think I'm going to do it, but part of me is tempted to do it. Just really depends on what I can find down here, man. I mean, like it's a barren wasteland at this point. Like Adam Thielen, Tyler Boyd, Nico Collins, Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, I like Wan'Dale Robinson, but there's so many mouths to feed in New York. I don't necessarily know if I can pony up, even a 14th round draft pick on that. I still only have 3 running backs. Let's see what running backs are available. True, man, this is brutal. All right, well, you know what? I need to take some running backs because clearly we're only doing 15 rounds in this, but there's not going to be any running backs available after round 15 if this was a little bit deeper. First one I'm going to take Jerick McKinnon. He's going to be the pass catching back for Pat Mahomes this year, and that was a pretty damn good role to have last year. So, dude, even if he can replicate 60% of what he did in 2022 in this upcoming season, I think that's perfectly fine. We know Isaiah Pacheco doesn't really catch balls, and Jerick McKinnon does. So McKinnon's going to be their third down guy. He kind of reminds me of, remember a few years ago when all the rage was like, get J.D. McKissick on your team because he always has that third down role. It's kind of Jerick McKinnon to me is like the new J.D. McKissick, but I was always a year too late on J.D. McKissick. So let's see how this one turns out for me.
I thought you were going to say Damian Williams, and I was going to be like, no, I don't remember when the hype was around Damian Williams.
Oh, well, I know you do. You gave me a first-round pick for him. Let's see here. Nico Collins is kind of tempting because he could emerge as the wide receiver one in Houston. Then again, I don't necessarily know if I personally believe that. Shoot, man, like this board is terrible. I'm going to take the guy that I think has the most upside on the board, DJ Chark. DJ Chark, he looks to be Bryce Young's favorite target. I know it's only been a week of training camp, but Bryce Young is loving DJ Chark, and he's making highlight reel catch after highlight reel catch right now in training camp. I took Bryce Young. Believe it or not, DJ Chark is only 26 years old. Feels like he's been in the league for a lot longer than that, but he's good, man. The last time he had a fully healthy season, he was a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And I'm pretty sure, what's his name, Jake Luton or something like that, was throwing him balls for half of that year. So, I'll take DJ Chark as my final guy in this draft and call it a day.
Yeah, I'd like DJ Chark there. I mean, he's not as good as the guy I'm about to take, the best overall quarterback in the draft, who's projected to finish as my quarterback 3 this year. Can't believe he's on the board right now at the 15-6 at the 157th pick or whatever it is in the draft. Trey Lance, man, I'm giving him my all day here in the 16th round. I drafted him in like the 8th round in a startup a couple months ago, so I'll take him here at the 15-6.
You know, I was a little surprised you didn't take Trey Lance at the 14-7. I almost said something, but then I decided not to. It would not be a mock draft if you didn't take Trey Lance at some point. At least you're not taking him in the 5th round anymore. So kudos to you on that one.
Well, whatever. I didn't draft. I wasn't one who was drafting him at the 1-2 turn last year. Let's be fair. I just thought the 5th, 6th, 7th round was a dip. It wasn't dippy yet. It wasn't dippy enough. The dip was not done dipping.
The dip was not done dipping. That's a mouthful. Anyway, let's look at my team here. Usually we look at yours first. I'm greedy. I want to look at mine first. So my quarterback room, Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, Sam Howell. Very young room. A lot of upside there. Definitely not the strongest quarterback room I've ever come away with in one of these. But I think it's serviceable, and it could turn out to be really good. I don't think there's a lot of possibilities where this room crashes and burns. Like, I don't think this becomes a bottom 3 quarterback room in the next couple of years. But it is well within the realm of possibilities that this stays very average at best. So that's one of those things I'm going to have to monitor moving forward with this team. Looking at my running backs, Bijan Robinson and Miles Sanders, I love that. James Cook is my RB3. I like that a lot, actually. And then Jerick McKinnon as my only other running back. I kind of wish I would have taken more than just 4 running backs through 15 rounds, but again, not the end of the world. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be, at the very worst, a top 3 dynasty running back for the next 5 years. Miles Sanders, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. And James Cook has the PPR upside. Even if he can be a top 22 running back in 2023, I think it's a massive win with where I got him. But Tyler, if you went in here with this team, looking at my running back room, I know you punt running back more often than I do. So, I think it's fair to be confident in this running back room.
Definitely fair. If you have Bijan Robinson, you can be confident in your running back room. You can make up for it everywhere else. So if you have Bijan Robinson, then Miles Sanders is elite as an RB2, and James Cook is also elite as an RB3, because they could literally be like pretty much zeros, and you're still going to be breaking even with the rest of the league when you have Bijan there. So Yeah, I'm definitely good with it. I mean, I like drafting Miles Sanders a lot of times as my RB1, so that's right around the range where I start picking them up again, as you can see by my team as well. So yeah, I agree with where you took those guys. Can't argue with taking Bijan at the 1-2 turn when you have no quarterbacks there to take. So I definitely wouldn't have been taking Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young over him there, because I'm not taking them over him in a rookie draft either. So I'm going to stick to those values. And yeah, I think you did. I think the running back room is going to be a hammer one, to say the least.
Yeah, I really can't complain too much. I'll skip over tight ends. I mean, what else can I really say about TJ Hockenson and Trey McBride? It's good. It's good. I mean, when you spend a top 4 round pick on a tight end, you better have a good tight end room. And really all it takes for a good tight end room is one tight end, because after the top 5, they're all a dime a dozen anyway. But the wide receivers, you know what? For only having 2 wide receivers by the end of the 8th round, I think this wide receiver room actually turned out pretty good. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's top 5. Terry McLaurin, we're still waiting for him to have a massive breakout year, but he's never been worse than, like wide receiver 20, give or take. Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, he's top 15. Michael Thomas, I mean, total lottery scratch off there. And then Gabe Davis and DJ Chark, I mean, they're both kind of just like the boomer bust weekly starters that I can fill in there at any given time. So definitely not the strongest wide receiver room I've ever had, but with how long that I punted that position outside of CeeDee Lamb, I'm actually not too upset with the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, with the prices that you paid for them, I think you did a good job. Like finding Keenan Allen that late, that's great. You're gonna get another year or 2 out of him of top 15 production. Terry McLaurin, I think, is kind of underrated a little bit as well. And CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb, and those the bye week fillers with Gabe Davis and a lotto ticket if Mike Thomas gets healthy and can be explosive again. Yeah, and I think it's fairly well constructed. I think if you're not going to have those elite quarterbacks, then I need the elite of the elite receivers. I need more than one of them as well. But being that you have Bijan, I think that's where I don't know. I guess if I'm going to construct a team from the very beginning, it's tough for me to go with Bijan over Garrett Wilson or Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle. But it's also tough not to take him when he's there at the 2-1. So it's tough. I mean, in hindsight, maybe I would have done some things differently, but in terms of the cost that you paid, I think that it's definitely a well-constructed room, and it's ready to win. As if Bryce Young can catch fire at all, you can make the playoffs and see what happens with that team, I think.
Yeah, and in my defense, my initial plan, I wanted to take A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb at the turn because I figured I wasn't going to get a quarterback, but I also didn't figure Bijan was going to be there. I thought he was going to go 111. I guess I could have gone CeeDee Lamb and Garrett Wilson, but then again, that changes the whole landscape. But I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. I do think you need to choose either a quarterback room or a wide receiver room cornerstone in these things. But one, I've never been shy on taking my running backs early. And 2, I mean, you and I, we think a lot alike, but we also think very differently in terms of startup value and how we want to build our rosters. And, you've always been, more head over heels with the wide receivers. I'm still on team running back, even though I'm a dying breed here. But it is what it is. Let's look at your team. Starting off quarterback room. I mean, when you have 4 quarterbacks through 15 rounds, you can't possibly have a bad quarterback room, especially when you spend your 1st and 3rd round picks on those guys. So Herbert, Prescott, Carr, Lance. I mean, this is about as solidified as you could possibly get in a quarterback room.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think Dak is pretty undervalued. He was going in the beginning of the 2nd round last year. I understand he had a down year, but it was kind of one down year out of 7. So I don't have Dak on a lot of dynasty teams, but in a startup, I have no problem taking him. I don't think he's got worlds of upside, but he has finished top 5 before. He had a top 3 finish a couple of years ago. So I like getting Dak as my QB2. Obviously, there's nothing to be said about Herbert as the number 1. Derek Carr, I think, is a fine price there. I think he's even viable. If you punt the quarterback position entirely, you could throw him in at the Superflex, and he's definitely going to be better than the skill guys that you're going to get in that area if you're going to try to catch up that way. So I do like having Derek Carr to fill in on those bye weeks, and of course, Trey Lance he's going to be hard to keep out of my lineup on a week-to-week basis because he's going to have all the opportunity there in San Francisco. So yeah, that is what it is.
Well, I mean, dude, if Trey Lance even gets 1 start the entire year, he's worth the 15th round pick that you used on him. But Looking at we'll save the wide receiver room for last. Pat Fryermuth, we'll skip over him again. Tight end room is tight end room. He's got upside. Probably not, top 4, top 5. Like I don't see him in the realm of possibilities finishing with Andrews and Hawkinson and Travis Kelce, maybe even Kyle Pitts. But Pat Fryermuth he's that tier 2 tight end that's cheaper than the other tier 2 tight ends, if that makes sense. So I don't mind that you take him where you do. But looking at this running back room, Javonte, Kamara, Gibson, Tyler Algier, and Deontay Foreman, there's a lot to like here, man. There really is. I mean, Javonte could be a total steal in the 6th round if he rebounds. Kamara is Kamara. We all know who that is. It is interesting, though, Gibson versus Brian Robinson. I noticed this, not just in this mock draft, but in a couple startups that I've done this summer and even in a couple of our other mock drafts. These two guys almost always go within like 3 or 4 spots of each other. So you took Gibson over Brian Robinson. Could you explain your thought process in that?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of like it's such a coin flip between the two because I think it's a situation where last year Washington kind of showed us that they liked Brian Robinson more than Antonio Gibson, but it's a different situation now. Eric Bieniemy's there. I do think that Antonio Gibson is the better athlete, but when it comes to running back production, it comes down to who gets the opportunity. Like that, all of our running back values, if you go down this list of running backs, it pretty much just goes in order of like who is going to see the most touches this year, and then a little bit combined with like youth. Like that really, it's just how much volume are these running backs going to get, and from there they're all freak athletes, right? So like I think Antonio Gibson is the better running back. But given that fact that he's a little bit older and the fact that like they showed that they liked Brian Robinson a little bit more last year, like there's so much confusion in the situation. So the fact that they are going neck and neck with each other makes complete sense to me. I'm just gonna go with my gut and the eye test when it comes to those situations, and I'll go with Gibson. And especially in like with a team that I think I'm going to compete with this year, I'm going to go with Gibson over Robinson. I mean, if I had like a much younger core, if I had taken Kyler Murray and I was punting the year, if Drake London was my wide receiver 1, that would have been a situation where I could have taken Brian Robinson over Antonio Gibson just to try to, lengthen my team's lifespan a little bit at the running back position. But I think in terms of talent, like Antonio Gibson is a good running back who had a fumbling problem, who could get a lot of opportunity because it's not like Brian Robinson is this dominant back that is going to shut Gibson out regardless, So I don't think there's much difference between the two, but if I'm going to pick an edge, it's going to be based off my eye test and who I think is the better football player.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm always going to go with the eye test. I'm always going to go with that PPR upside, right? And that's Gibson in just about every single field between those two guys. So don't disagree there at all. Looking at the wide receiver room, kind of surprised, man. You only took one wide receiver in the last 8 rounds here, which was Romeo Doubs in the 14th round. We know what he is, right? He's got the upside. Jordan Love is a question mark. Green Bay in general is a question mark. I don't think we need to talk too much about Romeo Doubs. But Jalen Waddle, Drake London, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin. I mean, dude, if this was my wide receiver room, just about any format, I'd be pretty thrilled with that.
Yeah, it's a good one too. I mean, I had kind of sort of hoped that I feel like it would have. I mean, obviously it would have been better had Jefferson, been there for me instead of Herbert. I would have probably, taken him and taken that chance. It would have been like Jefferson, Waddle, and then like Dak and I don't know. I guess not Tua because Tua wasn't there. Maybe Dak, Kyler. Yeah, Dak and Kyler would have been like Jefferson, Waddle, Dak, Kyler, and it would have been like a sick one with Jerry, Jeudy, and Godwin behind them too. So that would have been awesome. But I definitely do love how it turned out. I wish that it could have been, DK or JSN instead of Drake London, so I could have had some more points this year. But I think Drake London will be fine. Drake London will be a 14, 15 point per game receiver, like by default this year, just based on how good he is, how many targets he's going to get in relation to that offense. Like, I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to break the world this year, but I think Drake London's going to be fine. And I think that Jerry Jeudy, like we said, if he picks up where he left off, he's going to be getting drafted in the second, third round of startups next year. So,
yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think Drake London, man, we just got to hope Taylor Heineke takes over. Right? like Taylor Heineke would be so good. It's just it's just so frustrating. Maybe I get a little distracted when we talk about Drake London because I just beat myself up because I took him over Garrett Wilson last year. And my process, I told myself to take Garrett Wilson. I really did. And then I fell slave to the consensus. And I was like, but Drake London should have gone 3 picks ago. So whatever. You win some, you lose some.
It's so hard not to get caught in between, like, it's like, I'm going to take my guy versus, like, is that arrogant to think, like, I'm just smarter than everybody else in the community? But, like, when it comes down to it, like, when it gets to this point, I would so much rather be wrong on a player that I wanted to take than be right or you know what I'm trying to say, than be right because the consensus told me to and they did the work for me. Like, I'd rather have my own convictions and be sink or swim on my own, you know, not sink or swim because somebody else told me to. You know, it's my dynasty team. I want to make my decisions.
Exactly. So, you know what? Lesson learned. You can't win them all. But also, I mean, Drake London, if Desmond Ridder puts together a half-decent year, or if Atlanta finishes and they get Caleb Williams or Drake May, suddenly Drake London is going to be in the top 10 dynasty wide receiver conversation, right? So has yet to be seen. But that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty today. We appreciate you guys coming with us and you know, riding with us as we went through this startup mock draft. Obviously, you know, the season is only a few weeks away, man, or I guess about a month away. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but dude, I am pumped, man. I'm so excited. We're going to start getting training camp news. We're going to get to start talking about actually setting lineups in a month, like talking about, you know, dynasty buy lows, dynasty sell highs, you know, the weekly fluctuations, everything like that. So, dude, I mean, it's going to be an exciting season, and I just cannot wait to get all this content and really get into it in season mode.
Yeah, I know, dude. We've been waiting for so long. I mean, I love the dynasty off season because all you do is just sit around and make trades and like just try to beat people and be smarter than them and pay more attention than them. But yeah, it's time to finally start setting lineups and to let all like the hard work pay off. You know, it's a great time of year.
Exactly. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button if you like this video. Hit us up in the comments if you've got anything to say. You know, let us know what your startups are looking like. Who, you know what, actually, look at 112, what I did with CeeDee Lamb and Bijan Robinson. Tell me what you guys would do in that scenario. Would you have taken 2 wide receivers? Would you have gone with Bijan? Would you have taken Anthony Richardson? You know, I don't want to say that was controversial what I did, but there's a lot of different ways to play it. So I'd be really intrigued to hear what you guys do there. And also hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell notification icon, all that good stuff. Before we officially wrap up, Tyler, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I want to know where the viewers think that Kyler Murray should be drafted because me and Mikey had this discussion earlier. I mean, I know I keep seeing him on like, you know, like expert mock drafts, you know, going in like the mid-second round, early third round. I got him at the 401 in a startup that Mikey and I did not too long ago, and I keep saying it was a screaming value. Mikey tells me that he wouldn't have touched him at the 403 or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, I mean, it was I think that he's criminally undervalued right now. I know I'm not the only one saying that, but like, just in terms of started value, kind of wondering like would you really trade Breece Hall for Kyler Murray straight up? I think I would. Like in a lot of situations, if I'm not like a dominant team right now, I don't know how you could trade a running back with a question mark, or how you could trade a quarterback for a running back with a question mark when you know that quarterback has a 450-point ceiling or whatever. You know, like I don't know. I just think he's criminally undervalued, and I like to argue with you. So I would love to hear what the viewers have to say.
Yeah, I would be interested too. And I would rebuttal, but then this video would go on for another 10 minutes because we can never agree on Kyler Murray. So for myself, for Tyler, and for Goal Line Dynasty, we will see you guys next time.